welcome to another exciting episode of the Why I Love Disney podcast. I'm here with my friends Easton and David. How's it going, fellas?
Hey, how are you?
I am fantastic. I woke up this morning thinking, hey, is my Disney stock going to make me some money today? And the answer to that is a resounding absolutely not. It's had its worst day in 12 months. It's down 10%. I mean, you know, our pets' heads are falling off. It's just it's crazy. It's crazy. But other than that, man, things are good. You know, I can't complain.
Oh man, well, it was interesting. They started very early this morning. I didn't get to hear the whole thing yet, but I've been following a lot of the reports and a lot of the news and a lot of the commentary from people. I mean, I think there are shows still going live even as we're starting that have been going for a couple of hours this morning. So it's interesting.
It is interesting, but before we do any of that, we have to do something that's really, really important here.
What's that?
We need to send out a great big congratulations to former our Why I Love Disney podcaster, host, contributor John David, who graduated from college this past weekend. And so we want to just send a resounding congratulations to him and to you, Dad, for having successfully gotten another kid through college. Congratulations to all of you.
Woo! Well, we've had a great week. We have been down. Easton and I were down there for the graduation. Now he actually finished in December, so he actually completed his degree and is already in New York, where they're living now and working. But they decided they really wanted to go back for the ceremony and to walk across the stage and get the paper diploma in hand with their friends, and so we went down and we had a great time. But we had a great time, great trip. Florida for 5 days. The weather was really great. We had great accommodations. We're down in the West Palm Beach area, very resort-like, but no Disney. We didn't tag in Disney park days.
We want to send congratulations, and what everybody's asking now is, well, now that if he's been done since December, where the heck is he? Why has he not been on an episode yet?
He is in New York. He is working, doing great. He started with a right out of school with a job in New York City in January, and he's working for a company and in a sales position, and he's doing great. He's breaking records and doing all kinds of great stuff. So within their company, and we're excited for him. And they are getting used to New York. He and his wife McKay, they love to travel and they love to go. And so New York is that's a big place to move to and to learn and to get started in. So we're really excited for him.
That's awesome. Well, we're thrilled for him and for you, and can't wait. We got to talk him into jumping on an episode again.
We actually talked about that this week. We were like, hey, you've got to find a time. You've got to find a time to get in with us.
Well, good deal. Well, we should. The big news is the earnings report that they gave today, and on the headlines, the top level of everything, most of the news looked good. And so when you see this, and when you watch stocks a lot, when they earnings day, sometimes a company can beat their estimates. Everything, the news that comes out is seemingly good, and then you look at the stock price, and it's just getting slaughtered. And a lot of times it doesn't make a lot of sense, and you wonder, why in the world is this? So, David, we've all been kind of scrambling, looking for information on this. Why do you think the stock is down? Or let's start with this. What were the headlines first, and then let's ask why each of us think the stock might be down.
Well, most of the headlines that I saw were about Disney stock falls. Those have been the main headlines I've seen this morning. Most of the headlines don't include the why. I guess.
Well, I think the ones I'm looking at are streaming is profitable. That streaming premiums their financials are improving on the streaming front, which has been the biggest anchor I think people have thought in their businesses.
The New York Times says Disney reports strong earnings but warns of bumps ahead.
So, and that would that be in the theme park business?
I think that's still probably don't you think the streaming business?
Well, I'm here scrambling on the Google machine as well.
Disney shares fall despite first profit in core streaming business. See, I think it's just it's hard to know at this point what's the spin, and I don't know when they say they're profitable. Is that because Hulu was profitable, and they're counting that in there, and they've put Hulu in there now? I mean, that's a lot of the speculation that I hear from other websites and financial websites and things that I watch. Is that that's the whole purpose of putting Hulu in this mix, is to make Disney Plus profitable. So, all I know is every time I go to Disney Plus, it doesn't look anything like Disney. I mean, it is looking more and more like this is just a random streaming service that just happens to have a lot of Disney content on it. It's not quite the same thing. So it's like if you went on a Disney cruise and there were lots of things going on, but there was just this little area over here where you could go do some Disney meet and greets. That's what Disney Plus feels like to me. It's kind of like it's there, but you got to really look for it. In fact, this week, one of the things I did on this trip, because we had kind of long days and a lot of family time, but I've really been looking over, trying to track down some old movies that aren't on Disney Plus and aren't even were never even available on DVD. I mean, that's how. I mean, and there actually is quite a bit of that, but just going back and look at it, like how much content just isn't even available, even on Disney Plus. There's still a lot of content that's not. And so, and when you go to look, if you go, hey, I want to go see where are the old movies? Where are the Disney? Where you have to know the title of the movie you're looking for. There's no you can't even search Disney Plus by year. You can't say, hey, show me all the movies from the 50s. You can't even do that. You have to it might say classics, but they give you maybe 20 classics to choose from, and a lot of that stuff you've really gotta know it, or there's no way to find it unless you go through A to Z. You search A to Z, the whole catalog, and who really has time to do that? So you're really just picking
Right.
and choosing the hits. It's like they're trying to drive you to watch certain things they want you to watch, and they're trying to bury a lot of stuff that's there that they don't want you to watch. But I don't know. That's my feeling on it this morning. Again, I'm just reminded of man, why would bumps? Why would there be warnings of bumps ahead? This is
Well,
crazy
I'm
to
reading
me.
an article from Deadline that talks about Disney stock dips as theme park comments rattle market. And they did in here talk about how they had, the first quarter was incredibly profitable. It went, revenues up, profits are up. But they actually put a warning in here that the third quarter looks flat, and they think it might bounce back in the fourth quarter or whatever. But this seems to be something that is in the Q&A. He said, I think Iger said, in terms of attendance, what we're basically communicating is relative to the post-COVID highs, things are tending to normalize. And it's funny, that's, speak for when things normalize, things aren't booming as much, I think. And I think
Or
that
that's your way of
spooks people.
saying it's falling.
Yeah, or exactly, you're exactly right. So I think that seems to be. I'm scrolling through this news, and it seems to be most of the streaming side is a little bit more positive, but they're worried about weakness in the theme park side, which has been the buoy for the company that's been the good news, right, for
Right.
the last few years. Um, again, I think what might be happening is, yeah, there's a little good news on the streaming front, but if you're telling me now that the wind is coming out of the sails of the park business and the resort business, then we better be doing a lot better on the streaming to make up for it, right?
Right.
And
Well,
I don't, and I think
what
when
what will also be interesting is what are the other theme parks saying? Is Universal saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna we're gonna have the next quarter might be flat"? I'm not sure. That's what we need to
yeah,
see. That's going to be the telling, because it's a lot of times they'll do that. They'll say, well, our Elemental and Strange World and Wish weren't very profitable because we're still dealing with COVID, and then everybody goes, well, Mario Brothers didn't have any trouble, Barbie didn't have any trouble, and you can come
yeah.
back with several other movies that you say doesn't really fly. And again, I'm just this is just a talk that you hear. everywhere. I mean, if you're in these spaces and watching this content, these are the questions people are asking. So, I want them to win. I want them to do well. I
Yeah.
want things to go good. But that's it's really concerning that the parks might be flat. But I think it's hard to even know there because they can make the parks look packed. They have the ability now, and I can understand from their perspective. I mean, it used to be like you were so excited if you timed it right, and you went, "Oh man, we timed it just perfectly." It was the crowds were, because now they're saying like it's really good to go the first couple of weeks, for example, in May, because there's a lot of school graduations, there's Mother's Day, it's a wedding season, there's a lot of things that are keeping people from traveling. Where it used to be like October, November, now everybody seems to know, hey, that's when you go. And so, but if people even report that they had man, we went to Disney today and it was so nice, the lines weren't long. Somebody comes back and says the lines weren't long. There's a problem. And so, I think they're very conscious of that. They have to make it look like, even on a light day, that it's full, or somebody will be critical. Where we used to be really excited, like, oh man, I timed it perfectly. It wasn't bad today. And so again, we live in a different world than even 10 years ago, where everything has to be spun for social media, because if you don't have the right thing going, somebody will post a critical, account. Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah,
Here's an interesting little tidbit about the stock dive today. It's down like 10%, right?
right.
At 105 currently. It's $20 billion in lost market capitalization value in that drop. Now, what's interesting about $20 billion is that is roughly the equivalent, according to Forbes, of the total market capitalization of Warner Brothers.
Wow.
So they lost $20 billion of value today in the stock drop, and that is the equivalent of the entire value of the company Warner Brothers that owns HBO, Warner Brothers Discovery. That's remarkable to me.
That's insane.
That's remarkable, and it's sad.
Yeah. It also shows you how expensive Disney is.
Yeah, right.
It's pretty incredible. There's an interesting quote where Iger says they fully expect streaming to be a growth driver for the company in the future, and he cited declaring Hulu and Disney Plus profit is a testament to the turnaround. And he was implying since he took back over in 2022. And Forbes goes on to kind of criticize that it's a bold statement considering the only streamer that's profitable that has ever been profitable is Netflix.
Right.
No one else has been profitable to this point. And that's really, really interesting too. There are some comments he made that are interesting. I'd love to get y'all's thoughts on this. Easton, when he says that they're actually going to slow down the output of content to focus on quality, and he specifically cites Marvel in this. Do you think that is a good step forward? Does that encourage you at all, Easton?
Well, I think that's a great step forward, considering the past handful of Marvel movies that we've gotten. I think it said they were going to limit to like 2 or 3 Marvel movies a year, and then 1 to 2 TV shows. And if they're really going to like back up and try to actually really focus on the quality and not just do whatever, it's what it feels like, then I think that's going to be a great step forward.
Yeah, I had just pulled up an article just on that. The Guardian this morning said Disney to focus on quality and they could put that in quotes because that's what he said. Disney to quote focus on quality end quote as it plans to cut output, including Marvel. NBC News said Disney to limit Marvel movie releases each year as it doubles down on quote quality. And Marvel released no more than 3 movies and 2 shows per year, Bob Iger says. That's in Variety. What I think is kind of funny is like, first of all, it's really what he tries to do in that, I believe, is he tries to make it look like, well, this subpar was really because my predecessor, as he calls him, was, trying to just make so much content. And there was only like a brief period where he's even gone, but he never says me or I. But it was like were all these other movies, they were focused on poor quality. Wasn't everybody trying to have quality? It's just like, okay, we weren't focused on quality there, and they weren't. They were probably focused on quantity. But nobody was sitting around trying to make a bad movie.
Right. Yeah. If they were good, we'd want more quantity. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
Like, give me
It's
more to
like,
watch if it's
no,
great.
no, what we really want is more quantity with quality. Nobody's
Right.
We're having to take less quantity because the quality hasn't been good. It's like we're not able. We can give you three big good films, but we can't give you seven. That's
Right.
just too much for us to figure out. It's like, I'm sorry, what? You're the head of the entertainment company that's known for quality family entertainment, but we can only do a couple. Now I can understand that in the sense of of technology. Classically Disney in the old days, it took them 2 or 3 years just to do one animated movie, because you just couldn't. If they had rushed it, it would look like Saturday morning cartoons, and they were
Right.
trying to do an artwork that was above. And so I understand. I too understand that. I just always laugh at that because he's been saying that for about a year now. Like, we got to get back to quality, and it's like, weren't you trying for that? I'm a little
Yeah.
confused.
Well, at least admitting the problem though is the first step. So it has not been There has not been a lot of quality stuff coming out of that, especially in the
Yeah.
Marvel world. Again, I think some of that is just due to, we've talked about this before and a lot. Like, how do you top what you
Yeah.
did?
Right.
You have all the famous characters are kind of like are gone. Like, we don't care about Miss Marvel as much as we
No.
do Iron Man, and it's interesting. And she's actually, I think it's perfectly good show. And an interesting character, but not the same. It's a
Right.
niche.
Right. I think
Uh,
that's like that in anything. If you in any genre, you've got people. People will say, "I am a huge Kentucky basketball fan," and then you there are some people. Then you say, "Oh, really? What did you think of the stats of last year's team?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't know that. I just really don't like to miss a game with my family." And then there are people that love to watch it. They just love that family time. Then there are people that really get into they know all the stats, and they can tell you what every game was back 5 years, 10 years ago. And then there are people that know the old history. I mean, and so what I'm saying, there's all kind of fans in any genre. And so I think
yep.
in the Marvel world, that the deeper you go and the more obscure you go, you're going to lose some people. You're going to lose some interest because people are like, "Oh, I love this, but I don't know what that is." Now it's getting, I got to invest a lot more time and energy into learning all this. And so I think that did affect it. But I think if the movies had been great and they had taken those characters, they could have made something just as big. They unfortunately didn't.
Yeah, I know. I think in one aspect that I don't know if people have picked up on yet that I haven't seen is when they do say they're gonna make less content, that means they're gonna be spending less money.
Hmm.
So making it profitable, maybe that's a good sign, from a business standpoint. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I do think with Deadpool and with Fantastic Four, I mean, they've got some characters, from my generation at least, that you're going, okay, this is more recognizable than some of the other characters and IPs they've been pulling in. So maybe they can create something completely new and profitable.
I kind of like. I had this theory too that it's good when you cast a superhero. Usually, try to take someone no one knows from other things prominently.
Yeah.
I think that usually works better.
Yeah.
Um, like, not all the time. I think Robert Downey Jr. was incredible at Iron Man, and that's another class, right? But most of the other actors from Thor to the Hulk, these were actors that we didn't know a lot of, that weren't established as something else in our minds already. So I'm down for that. And even when you look at the Batmans, right? The most well, Michael Keaton's probably the most successful one, but Christian Bale, even, he had been in a lot of things. He was, but more art art movies. He wasn't like I don't think a prominent guy. We kind of know Christian Bale now as
Mm-hmm.
Batman, and one of the better ones. So I actually think it's better when they are a little more obscure, and not some huge A-list star already.
I kind
Does
of
that
feel
make sense?
that I feel that way with animation too. Like you can have, you can have your Robin Williams as the genie moments, but you've got, I think, even animation works better when you're not thinking the whole time of the start, and you get lost in the character.
Yeah.
If their stardom outshines their role, then it just takes a while to get there, creatively
Yeah,
as you're watching it.
I can see that for sure. Well, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with and where kind of. I mean, it's exciting when they announce a new character, but then DC's been trying to get some kind of DC universe thing going for a long time, to varying success. It seems like as soon as they get a little traction and momentum, a dud comes out, and then they want to blow the whole thing up and start again. And it's unfortunate because it's kind of like some of it works, some of it doesn't, but just commit and let's go. You know what I mean? Like I told you guys the Snyder cut of Justice League. I think it's fan. It's the only one I've seen. I didn't see the original one because I heard it was so bad, but I really enjoyed it, and really wish that I will take that back. I actually think Ben Affleck is kind of underrated as Batman. I really didn't enjoy the Robert Pattinson Batman, but I just wish they could get it together and figure it out. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I was just thinking the other day about, because I had seen an article like, what if Guardians hadn't been successful? Like, where would Marvel be there? Because like in that era, like it with Cosmic Rewind and I mean, it has been like their biggest presence. I mean, they have invested a lot. You've got Mission Breakout, the Guardians of the Galaxy overlay taking over Tower of Terror, in Disney, DCA, and you've got Cosmic Rewind. I mean, it's really been their property that they can really promote. Besides Captain America,
Well, it also shows you. Well,
not Captain America,
too, like,
Captain Marvel, Captain Marvel,
Captain Marvel. Right, that's what I'm saying. Like I think that we're making this argument that people want the stars and the hits, but there is a pattern. Like if you make something great, nobody knew who Guardians of the Galaxy were. At least the large swath of the
Yeah.
population, did not
Right.
know those characters. They were not, but they did such a good job with it
Right.
and made them fun and relatable. And you got Chris Pratt. I mean, it just worked.
Right.
And so there is, as much as we give them an excuse for, hey, you're using these characters nobody's heard of as much, and that works to your disadvantage. The Marvels could have been great. It just wasn't. You know what I
Right.
mean? So let's not let them all the creative people off the hook too much.
That's why I
Yeah,
bring
that's a
that
great
up,
point.
because we were saying that it's on one level it's they go to fringe characters that you might not know, but if they do it great, then the people will think those characters are just as big as Spider-Man and Iron Man and
Yeah.
Captain America. So
Yeah, I always go back to Rogue One. Rogue One is a fantastic movie with some really interesting characters. You do something great, and it'll take on a life of its own.
Yeah.
You don't have to. You're in the franchise, but you're not playing the hits again. You know what I mean? You got new interesting things that people actually like. I think that's really fascinating. I hope they can hit that again. Well, I thought too. This is actually Easton's idea that we come out. Let's. What if we've been talking about all the bad news with the Disney stock price losing $20 billion in market cap. Let's talk about our favorite Pixar movies. Can we do that today?
oh man, every time you guys always want to do favorites. Why can't we just talk about how great they all are?
They're all great, save one or two. That's a given. But you
I agree.
gotta have right. Okay, how about this, David? Right now, if you were gonna go and you had to watch the next three movies you would watch, which would they be? We don't have to be your all-time favorites, but your favorites right in this moment for whatever reason. Maybe it's the way which side of bed you rolled out on.
I tell you what, I think I can do it. Although it shifts, I always think it shifts depending on what I did just watch. And we watched. Easton watched one on the airplane, and I was kind of watching over his shoulder and watching some other things on my phone at the same time. But
Spoiler
again,
alert,
reminded
that
of
one is
about
on my
how
list.
great. Yeah, I'm sure it is. How great some are, and some are. Some, it's like if you ever see, old movies, and you'll go, man, that was great. That is a great movie, or that's a great book. But it's not necessarily my favorite. Like, because again, I think favorite usually hits you where your nostalgia feels are.
Hmm.
Sure.
I can say, yeah, this one's better, but that one's my favorite. So that's kind of where I am in some of these. But I would before we tell that, I want to know, like, what would what are maybe two Pixar movies that you were very underwhelmed by?
Ooh, that's okay. I got a hot take on this. I'll go first because I know right when you say that, I know there's one I always go to, and it's Wally.
Oh,
Oh,
Wally?
that's a big one.
I don't love Wally. I don't love it. I've never loved
Wow.
it. I saw it at the theater. I've watched it again subsequently when it was on. I don't. It just doesn't make me feel good. Like it's just a.
Well,
I don't know.
I could see that, but see, I think Wally's kind of an introvert movie. Like, if you're introverted and you watch Wally, and you kind of can feel like, man, I mean, there's some people that could be Wally. They would be happy just
Yeah,
sitting
that's true.
on a planet somewhere, cleaning things up all by themselves. Give me a task, and I'll just do my job. I got my little pet cockroach
I'll
here to
give.
keep me
I'll give you a
company.
second. You want a second hot take?
Yeah,
I don't love Up. I don't love Up either.
Oh,
Wally and Up.
those are some. Those are some.
I know. Those are. You thought I was gonna say The Good Dinosaur. No, I'm gonna go Wally and Up.
those are very
Did
They're
you
hot
my
love?
two.
takes.
Did you love the Good Dinosaur?
No, I didn't love The Good Dinosaur either. It'd probably be next,
So you just
but
you
the reason I'm going for the hot take that those are two that most people like that I just don't care for.
okay? Well, that I hear what you're saying. I think my two, the one that okay, I'm gonna say outside of very very recent ones. Like I'm not. I I got to be honest. I didn't love Red, but I've been really gonna go back and watch Red. Red was the
Turning
first.
Red.
Turning Red, yeah. Turning,
Yeah.
yeah. Turning Red. That was the first one that I felt like, I don't feel like, you know, I don't love this. But then there's several that I thought were, you know, average. But I think the first one that I ever went to that I was just like, oh no, was The Good Dinosaur. And also the other one that in the theater I was just bored out of my mind was Brave.
Really?
But I have to say that Brave is one that I've gone back and like watched again and gone back, and there's so many great points. I just thought, and I love. I think who plays the mom, is it Emma Thompson? She's great. She's great. I just didn't like.
Yes.
I just didn't like the overbearing mother character. Like, I think that's the Turning Red thing too. And they it's not a personal thing, but that those characters are just never like, she's just mean. Like, what they're it's just not fun to watch. And so, but then I go back and watch it again, and the movie's so much bigger than those moments, and I do think it's really good. I've never warmed up to Good Dinosaur. I need to give it a better chance. But there's some things like Soul. There are things that I really like about Soul, but there are parts of it that the little I need to go back and watch that one again probably too. But I would have liked Soul a lot more if it had been just about him trying to make it in the music business, and a school teacher trying to live his dream, as opposed to the whole death scene. And I think it could have been just really good without all that. I was like, man, the whole music business arc would have been, hard, because as soon as he gets that first gig and he thinks he's on his way, he's about to get the door slammed in his face and have to start all over again. But
Yeah.
now, anyway, those are two that I. What about you, Easton?
Well,
What's your least favorite?
one of my two underwhelming Pixar movies probably is Turning Red. I don't necessarily think it's a bad movie, but it's just like I'm not the demographic for that movie. Like, I didn't really have any way to relate to it, so I was just like, this is fine, I guess. Like, I don't think it's terrible. It's not for me. And then The other,
You've never had to run out and get tampons in the middle of the night? Your mom didn't have to do that for
no,
you?
my mom never had
It,
to do that for
I
me.
don't understand. How's that not relatable?
No, no, she never did. So I
And
don't.
I'm so sorry.
I was
You can edit that out if you want.
Oh, that's funny.
I forgot also. We went and saw it twice in the theaters, and I was still very underwhelmed by Lightyear. So, and you've never even seen Lightyear, have you?
I still haven't seen it. I
Man,
haven't seen
I
it.
can't believe you got three sons, and
I know. I need to check it out.
you've not watched Lightyear. But that kind of tells you that there was no even they did not even
Nobody
feel
said it's great. You know what I mean? Like,
no that
there's so many things to watch these days. Like, if you get kind of feedback that it's so, you're like, well, am I going to spend my. I think my kids might have seen it. I just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
but it's
that's my
still
number
it just
two.
because it had that feel of like this is supposed to, oh, did I interrupt you on that? I'm so
Yep.
sorry.
No, you're
So,
good.
Turning Red and Lightyear.
Lightyear,
I say
Those are them.
I thought you liked Lightyear.
I liked it, but it was. I don't think it's bad. I just think with the catalog of Pixar movies that there are, that one was pretty underwhelming. And we've talked about it before that doesn't really feel like, personally, that doesn't feel like to me like the movie that Andy would have seen in 1995 when he decided he loved Buzz Lightyear so much, because that didn't really seem like a character worth wanting an action figure for in that movie specifically.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, can we, before we go to our top three, which obviously are going to change, can you give me, both of you guys, give me your most underrated Pixar movie?
Oh, one that we think should be higher in a lot of people's opinion.
Yes. Yes. Both of mine that I gave for my least favorites, I believe would be my overrated, Wally and the other one. But I have an underrated one too but I want to listen to yours first, Easton.
Okay, so my underrated, this is probably a hot take, but my most underrated is probably Cars 2. A lot of people don't like Cars 2, but
Okay.
I think it's I just I'm usually not a huge fan of a sequel movie that will focus on a side character or like a supporting role as the main character, but I love Mater so much. He's so funny in Cars, and I think that's why I like Cars 2, is that Mater is just a funny character, and he has some of the funniest one-liners in Cars 2 ever.
Do not eat the pistachio ice
That's
cream.
it. That's the one. It has
Yep.
turned.
Yeah, I think it is a memorable line. I mean, at Cars 2, I think everybody that's seen that remembers that scene
Yeah.
where he eats the wasabi. It's really good, I will say.
That's probably my pick for the most underrated.
I would put that as one of my most underrated as well. I've never understood why, it gets such a bad rap, but
I
the whole
think it was.
Cars thing does. The whole Cars
Yeah, I
thing
think
does.
that the reason, if I were going to give you a reason why it gets a bad rap, I think there was a little bit of Larry the Cable Guy fatigue. He was a little overexposed during that period of time, and he was kind of everywhere. And I think to some people he just sort of wore people out, just generally him. And so you watch a movie and it's so obviously him,
Yeah.
that I think for some people that was like, oh,
No,
that kind of thing.
I think that's a very valid, and I think sometimes in some movies get a bad rap because people don't like they get over a character gets overused, or an actor has a bad rap, and so the whole movie has to suffer because that
Yeah.
person's in that movie. And I think definitely they overexpose side characters sometimes. I think like Olaf is a good example that they could overdo Olaf to the point that people were like, I've seen so much of him.
Right.
But they
I'm
got
to the point where anything Josh Gad is in, I like. You have to win me over. You know what I mean? Like he drives me nuts.
Well, he's good, but he's a lot, and he's already a legend. They already call him a Disney legend, and
How?
he's done one character. But that's
I do appreciate that he is a legit Disney fan. I do
Yes.
appreciate that.
I do too.
Like he comes by it honest.
Yes, and I do think he did a great, incredible job with Olaf. But I'm always amazed.
I agree with
you
that.
you can do one role, and they market you as a legend. And there are other people that have done 40 years of animated work, and they're still not legends.
That's true.
So,
Yeah.
all right, and I
Well,
want to say one of my other underrated, I think, is A Bug's Life. It's kind of
okay.
buried
Yeah.
in the it never got the attention that uh, it swallowed up in the success of Toy Story, but I still think that's an incredible script, an incredible cast, incredibly funny, great lines. It's just such a good movie, and it's and now it's even going to lose its. It needed to be updated for sure, but the It's Tough to Be a Bug is going to be replaced by Zootopia at Animal Kingdom. That's sad. It's like, well, we gotta let. It's not just updating the ride, but we've got to replace it with a more popular IP. That's always sad to see. You know, the old get pushed aside. I think it's underrated.
No, that's a fun
What do
movie.
you think?
I agree with that. Mine is Onward.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like no, I feel like too many people have not seen Onward. It's great. It's great.
Yes.
It came out March 6th, 2020, the
I
week
was
before the world shut down.
I was there in the theater with my wife, all by ourselves.
I I love that movie. I was gonna, and honestly, I would probably put it in my top three. Here in a second too. I love it, and I know it gets knocked a lot. Like if you look at lists, people don't love this movie, and again, I think it suffers a little bit from the same thing Turning Red does. I think if you're not, it's more geared toward men or
Yeah.
brothers.
Right.
And I think it's not again, both Turning Red is geared toward teenage girl or preteen girls. Um, there's demographics that this hits harder with, right?
Right.
And so I totally appreciate that. But I love Onward. I think it hits all the right buttons. It's funny. I think the acting, the voice is incredible. I love the creative story. I think everything about it. It's just a great
Yeah,
movie.
you're right. That one's really good. I may have to watch that one again today.
Every time we sit down for family movie night, I recommend Onward. I like, maybe we should watch Onward. Dad, we've seen that. But that's how much I like it.
That's hilarious. My kids would say that I always say, "Let's watch Saludos Amigos from 1946," but we never do. We never do.
Maybe one day they'll throw you a bone, right? And you'll get to watch.
Actually, that's not
something.
46. It's 40. Probably 43. I'm sorry.
No, we forgive you,
That's
David.
that's
we forgive
that's too late for that movie.
you. Both Easton and I were pretty getting upset that you got that date wrong right when you said that, and then
Fake fan.
glad you corrected that for everyone
He's a
listening.
fake fan.
I love it. So let's get to our top three. What's your top three right now?
I can I pick a franchise or do I have to pick a film?
No, you got to pick a
Movie.
movie. A movie. You don't get to say Toy Story and get all four.
Well, I think I'm going to go with two that always hit me. I'm going to have to go, and I bounced around on this one. My underrated favorite, my underrated favorite is Ratatouille. And I don't think that's really underrated. It's just the one that I love it, and I don't know why.
It's great.
Like I keep
It
going.
is great.
This there's no family nostalgia to this one. This is just like one that always hits me. And the Big Hero 6 hits me like this too. And I'm like, I don't even know why I like this. What is this? What is this one? But Ratatouille, man, it just sucks me in every time. If I start watching, time will pass, and I'll be like, oh man, I've watched the whole thing. So it's so good, and I love, man, the whole ending, that whole last when Ego does his final review is just so good, so well written.
Yeah,
and
it's
the
great.
fact that they pull off this whole premise, it's like the writing has to be so good for any of this to be remotely believable, that you're so into the characters that you'll just forgive that he's controlling his arms by pulling his hair. It's like doesn't even make any sense, but it works, and I love that one. My next one's gonna be, I'm gonna go actually with the original Incredibles, because that's gonna be my, I just watched this again, and I might not have said this one, but I'm gonna put it there because I think the original is that great. I think even we just did our villains bracket, and just Syndrome is so good. I think the biggest shame is that to me in Incredibles 2 is they should Syndrome should have come back. He should have been like, "Oh, you thought you got rid of me, but I had on a so and so suit and I'm back." I think he's so good that you just really, it's like not bringing him back was, it was so sad not to see him again. And just it's so incredibly well written. It's just and animated and acted, brilliant film. And then I guess because I can't choose among them, I'm just gonna say Toy Story is still my overall favorite. I think it's the strongest franchise, the best acting. It's like somehow they take these A-list actors, all these people, and you don't think about the actors. You think about these characters, and they're just so iconically written. Even Toy Story 1 with its old animation that doesn't compare to Toy Story 4 in any way. Just that would be the biggest hard spot would be choosing between 1 and 2. So I'll just go with 1. But I could go with 2 easily. I think Toy Story 3 was probably one of the most emotional Disney movies I've ever sat through, even with our kids. That was a hard movie. But it was so good. So all of them are great, but I'll just go with number 1. So for me today, Ratatouille, Incredibles, Toy Story.
Nice.
Might change next month, but that's it today.
I hear you. I love it. I would give Ratatouille an honorable mention too. I consider putting it in my top 3, but I'll go next. I'm gonna say here's 2. I don't think you guys will say, but I really do love these. And when I go to watch something, if I'm gonna be a Pixar movie, I'm gonna leave Onward off the list just
Okay.
because I've put it as most underrated, so I can say 3 others. But I'm gonna say Coco. I
Yeah.
love Coco. It's one. If it's on, I'll kind of sit and watch it.
Me
I
too.
think it's to me it's beautiful. It's just
It
the
is definitely.
colors, the sound, the it's creative. Even though it deals with like the subject of death, it does so in such a way that like how do you do a animated movie about death? You know
Right.
what I mean? And make it palatable and
Yeah.
entertaining and heartwarming, and somehow they do. And I absolutely love Coco, and I would watch it again tonight. The next one is and again, I don't know what order I'd put these in, but Monsters Inc.
Oh,
Um,
so
I
good.
love Monsters Inc. Love it. Again, I could watch that anytime it's on. I'll sit down and watch it also. And then finally, this is an overlap, but the original Incredibles is so good. It's one of a kind. I think a masterpiece of animation and storytelling. So those are my 3.
And what an amazing time that just within a short span, a 10-year span, you've got the Toy Story franchise, and then you jump over Monsters Inc. and you've got Finding Nemo, Monsters Inc., Incredibles, and Cars. Those franchises that have just been
Yeah.
dominant for
Yep.
20 some years now. Just amazing, amazing quality and
Well,
just
it's
great writing.
funny, Disney, how fortunate. Like they hit the jackpot with the era with the Aladdin and the Lion King and the Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, right? There was this series where everything was just what's next? You're just what are they going to put out next year? That kind of thing. And this is the same era with Pixar, right? Those franchises one after the other, and these unlike the Aladdins of the world, these lend themselves to sequels, right? And so you got a little more out of those. I completely agree. It's like the golden age, of Pixar for sure. We
Yeah.
hope they can hit that
Yeah,
again
absolutely.
with Toy Story 5 coming out.
True. Maybe so.
So, all right, Easton, it's all up to you, man.
All right, here we go. Here's my top 3. I overlap with both of you guys. Between the two of you, you have listed my top 3. So my number 3 is Ratatouille. I just think it's fun. It's a fun movie. All the same reasons. My number 2 is Monsters Inc. I think just like Ratatouille, it's so fun. It's your classic buddy movie of two pals that don't see eye to eye and end up being better friends through the trial. And then my number 1, if you hadn't guessed, it is The Incredibles. I just think it's
Yeah,
so good.
we should have left The Incredibles to you. You're the Incredibles guy,
I
yeah.
love The Incredibles. It also may be
Heck
because
yeah.
I was little when it was out and it was superheroes and the animation is so good, and it just makes you want to makes you feel like you could pick up a car or you could run 144 miles an hour.
That's incredible.
I
Oh,
love it.
but
I love it. I think those between our lists. Between our lists, I think you listeners will have some if they haven't seen these yet or are looking for something to rewatch in the near future. Those are great ones. All super rewatchable. I think way high on the rewatchable
Yeah,
meter.
our lists are all pretty way more similar than I expected.
Can I ask you guys about one? Let me ask you what your opinion is of Luca.
Luca?
I don't know if we've ever mentioned Luca on this podcast. Why is that? I'm
think,
not certain I've ever seen it all the way through. It came out in 2021, so it came out in COVID, right?
Yes.
Like in the heat of COVID. Okay, that could be why a lot of us missed it.
I saw it. I thought
I
it was
did.
good.
I mean, I think the big thing is it hit Disney Plus first. Yeah, Luca and Soul and Turning Red have all been released this year in the theaters, but didn't do that great. So it first hit Disney Plus. I think one of the things that you know, it's a good. I think it's good. I think it came out at a time when honestly, when people were suspect. I just think people went, if they're putting it on Disney Plus, it's going to be. And so I watched it. I thought it was good, and I was one that I want to go back and see again because I think it will be better if the second time around. I think, but I think that had an impact. All of those movies that went straight to Disney Plus just did not get the buzz that they had, and I think that's one of the things again that's hurting because there was even when Mandalorian came out, we were all on lockdown, but there was such a buzz. And when a movie like Frozen first came out in 2013, whatever, I mean within a week, Let It Go, that song, and people were, oh, you got to take your kids, your girls are gonna love this, you got to go do this. I mean, it was like you got to kids were like, God, we've got to go, and we just don't have that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that hit Luca hardest. I think of all those that came out, it might be the strongest of that group that got straight to Disney Plus.
Well, then I need to go revisit that, and I will do that here in the next little bit. So, hey guys, and always enjoy it. It's been fun. We want to thank you for listening, all of our friends out there. We would love it if you'd leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, 5 stars preferably, and you can reach out to us at whyilovedisney.com and through the socials as well. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us today in whatever context or wherever you happen to be listening from. And until next time, so long. David, Easton, take care.
See ya.
See you next week.